So Joe will start recording, and then it's Joe's show after that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. And we talked a little bit about some topics that some providers did not know about and stuff like that. We just came up with this topics and agenda that is in this meeting invite. And so if we're off mark on some of these topics, please let us know if there's other topics that you would like us to address, because we do have like 4 sessions scheduled to go over these things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I already have a power chart application open and a test patient for primary care. And I'll give it a few minutes for everybody to load. And if somebody can just let me know that they can see my screen, I'd appreciate that. And can everybody see that screen?
Yep, I've got it here.
Okay, good. Everybody was quiet, and I was almost thinking I lost connection. So Teams was acting up earlier today, so I wasn't sure. So from this workflow, what we're going to do is I'm just going to show providers on how to add a link up on our toolbar that we have at the very top of the screen here. If you providers would like to add up to 2 links, I'm just going to go ahead and add one that I added quite a bit. I know the URL by heart. So all you need to do is just right click anywhere up in this toolbar, and you'll get this customize the link open up, and then it says customize toolbar. And this is where you're going to want to add 1 or 2 links. Select add, and you'll enter in, oops, my apologies. You're going to enter in how you want the website to be displayed. I'm going to use CDC and their URL. And then you could close this window, and now their link is located up on top here. Now, I know that we have Dynamed, and we used to have UpToDate, and if you are a user of UpToDate and you have the account, that is one that you can copy, and just copy their URL and just follow the same instructions on right-clicking and going through the steps of adding that. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, and so I'm going to go on to contextual view. Emily has asked me to just remind some people on how this functionality works. I'm going to start with our HPI, and these components I've moved just to save me some time to find them in this workflow. You may have these moved throughout your primary care M page. I'm going to start with our HPI, and it's called contextual view. Some people refer to it as a split screen. And you can move these components over to the right hand side of the screen. I'm going to select the HPI to the right, and it'll move it over. And you do want to be careful on if you skip like review systems and you go down to physical exam and you wanted to review systems next, you're going to have to move one of these components back and continue that sequence over. You cannot rearrange these once they've been moved over. You have to move them back over to the left. And so you can simply move these to the right. And I know that this is a small screen that I have. And so if it's a little too small, just let me know and I can try to change the resolution on this to make it a little bit better. Does anybody have any questions on this functionality? So, does somebody gonna say something? Now, from here, that you can pull in your auto text. We have public phrases in here. If you have your own specific auto text you can use in these components, you can use Dragon, and you can also grab and copy and paste or drag and drop components from prior documents. So I'm going to go over to documents that we have on these test patients, and I'm just going to go ahead and open up one of these to see if I can find a good note here to look at. So for example, here I have a problem list here, and I'm just going to grab some text. Sorry, this is not probably the best one I want to use, but I'm going to go ahead and highlight the primary care summary part, and holding your control key down, you can drag and drop this over to one of these components if you wish, or you can simply tag this component and it will go up into your tag component on the right hand side of your screen. There's a little sales tag symbol that's dithered out, and once you tag an item, it becomes this little Cerner blue. And the assessment plan, you do have one that will automatically populate with your orders in your problem list. But does anybody have any questions on how to move these or use these contextual view? Because you can do HPIs and so forth that will auto-populate into your note type. And I'll show you how these will pull in. I'm going to go ahead and close this window down. And the other thing that she mentioned is about the tagging functionality. We did tag that document and it lives up in this little tagged item area. And here we just have this office visit documentation. If you hover over it, you'll actually be able to see the entire document text there. And if you do choose to remove it, you can remove it from a single click and remove it, or if you want to remove all tagged items, you can remove all of them at the same time. And to close the window, you simply select the tag and it will close this window. Now I'm going to go down to labs, and this patient does have some labs. Now I understand that you guys are having a problem with the scrolling of these windows and stuff like that to tag items, and Emily and I are trying to work on that. I noticed it worked and it did not work one time. To simply tag a result, you find the result itself, select it one time, and you'll have a tagged window open up. Now I'm going to go ahead and close my table of contents bar over here to make a little bigger viewing window for me. Now I have one item tagged. Once I tag it, it will ask you to remove the tag if you want to remove it. And you can also see it back over in the tagged items. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can tag multiple items at different times, or at the same time, excuse me. You hold down the control key on your keyboard and you can randomly select them. I'm just going to move over a little bit. And this is where Emily was talking about where the little scroll feature is really hard to see and use. So I'm going to go ahead and hold my control key down and randomly select these tagged items. And I'm going to tag all 7 of them. And if you need to select all of them in one component, for the chem panel, you can select one, then hold the shift key down, and you can select all of them at the same time. Now I've already tagged the cholesterol once before, and it will not duplicate a tagged lab result. It will override the one that you tagged before and display just one inside your note. And they do auto-populate into the correct component of your document. And as you can tell, these labs are all tagged, and you can individually, like I said, remove one if you did not want it to populate into the chart, or you can go and remove the entire lab components, then start back over on tagging or remove the all. Does anybody have any question on tagging? So since we have these windows open here, I'm going to go ahead and move these back to make the screen a little bit larger for this presentation. And she also wanted me to bring up where you can see trends within vital signs and labs. You can see a trend on the results. So this patient's blood pressure has been in a critical state. If I wanted to see the trend, the default view as your view is last 13 months. If I wanted to see a trend of the last 3 years, if this patient had that many blood pressures over the last 3 years as they populate, now I'm going to go ahead and select blood pressure, and you'll see a trend on their systolic and diastolic pressures. If I wanted to monitor this patient's height a trend on their growth over time, you'll see a trend is a dot. Same thing with a heart rate. If you're looking at O2 stats over a trend, in time you'll see the graph display as appropriate. And you can do the exact same thing with your labs. You can see a trend if you wanted to on the patient's cholesterol and so forth. If you scroll through here and they had multiple lab results, you can do the same thing with the trend. And you select one and your trending will display on the right-hand side. Anybody have any other questions on that?
Can you tag the graph, Joe?
No, you cannot. And that is one thing that I do get asked quite a bit. And it's something that I put in a request. I put in a service request for Cerner to see if we can do that. I do know some functionalities hopefully coming down in a year, and like tagging or copying the image to import it in with your diagnostics reports. And they're trying to do the same thing with a graph. I get asked that and at least once a week in my classes. Somebody asked me that. And so we're trying to get that to be able to be tagged. And the only way I can think of it is that if you're able to copy and paste it, but we've been unable to get that as well, because we've had providers and we've tried to do that and it just does not work right now, unfortunately. So I had another thing that she asked about is how to create folders. Does anybody have any questions on how to create folders for your orders? Does everybody know how to do that? If somebody does not know how, we can go through that again. But I do know that you guys have two different types of folders or viewpoints here. You have your ambulatory meds and your ambulatory in office. Now I'm going to go back over to your orders to create, sorry about that, to create some folders if you wanted to save labs, orders, or anything into these specific folders. So you can select orders, and then you're going to come over here and you see I have a couple of ones already, but from this little drop down arrow next to the favorites, you can organize your favorites. And you're going to have a little window display that shows all your folders. If you need to create one, you simply select create, and you have an opportunity to name it. And to do another folder, you'll want to go ahead and start from the very top of the hierarchy and favorites to create another one. And if you do need to rename it, simply select rename, or to delete it, you can simply delete that folder. Now, I created these under my ambulatory meds hierarchy. I can select the drop down arrow and change it over into the in office, and then do the same process over here with the drop down arrow, organization, create a folder, and so forth. Any questions on creating folders? Because now once you go to, for me, I use new order entry. Some providers may see and use their orders over here off of the table of contents. I think a lot of you guys may be going through the orders over here versus the new order entry that I show you here on the. And we do have the public folders, and you do know how to, I believe Emily said everybody knows how to look for shared or other providers orders, and where you can actually copy somebody's order. So and so here I could look at her orders, and she has a couple folders here, and she has plan favorites. They have some ones here for your power plans. Now, copying a power plan, you have to review this order prior to saving it. The other ones that you can see that have a star next to it, If I wanted to keep this as one of my favorites, I could simply select that little opaque star, select the favorites, select the folder that I wish this to go into, and then add it. Now with a power plan, if you're trying to copy over someone's power plan, you do have to review this power plan, and I'm selecting it one time, and it's going to go up to the orders for signature, how we place the order. When you save it to your own, I do not associate a problem to it and simply modify this order. And this is a good point. If you do have a plan favorites notification window display, this has just been a notification from HIM and from IT that we've modified your original power plan, and selecting continue will continue to your power plan with all your specific components that you've built out for that power plan. If you should select load standard, it wipes out anything that you've modified in there. So please don't select load standard plan, and you want to select continue. And that's a key thing. We've had providers load the standard plan, it wipes out their favorites orders within that set. From here, I can review the provider's power plan that I'm going to copy, and I can change this power plan at this time if I wanted to add something to it or uncheck an order in it if I did not want the vitamin D, or if I wanted to add a vitamin B, I can do so, and then I can select save as my favorite. At this time, I could turn around and say this is mine and select OK. And just remember, you want to cancel this order unless you have a test patient that you're doing on. And then if I go back up, oops, sorry. Under my plan favorites, you'll be able to see that power plan that I have created. Any questions on folders and saving other people's orders?
Do you think it's worthwhile to show how people can create subfolders?
Subfolders, yes. Going back to orders, or if you want to use the new order entry hyperlink, it will take you to the same place. I'm just going to select here, and then I'm going to go back into add and go into my favorites folders, organize them, and then to make a subfolder, all you need to do is select, as you can tell, this test 2 has this order here, but I want to create a subfolder. So you want to create a folder from here. And so forth, and you can continue this cascading effect with these. And these are all going to be subfolders for you to save a full order or a power plan into. And as you can see, these go back to here, and then you have your subfolders in here. And if I wanted to put one in a subfolder, if I wanted to order and save a CBC, if I select this test 2, I could then continue down into the subfolders. And hopefully I didn't go too fast on that. Anybody have any questions on that, on how to create those subfolders? Okay, so I did help one provider on looking at a historical medications for her patients looking back to 2 years. And so from the home medications here, I'm going to go ahead and select the home medication link. And this one's defaulted to all active medications. On how you can create a historical medication look back, you can do it a year, 2 years. Once you pass a few, I think it's like 5 or 6 years, it starts to slow down the system and it can break the system. So what I'm going to do is select this little ellipsis here, and I'm going to select the new on how to create a new filter for here. And this will give me an opportunity to change the display name. And I'm just going to add my name to it. And this is where you'll want to select what you want to see. If you want to see anything that's inactive as a discontinued, a canceled, or it's been completed, you can do this by selecting any of these that you wish to have them display. And then the big key thing is include the number of days that you want to change this to. If I'm going to look back to 1 year or even out to 3 years or 2 years, excuse me, I'm going to go just 1 year, and I'm going to look back 365 days. I'm going to select apply, and now I'll be able to look back over 1 year for these. And that's how you can go all the way out to, I think we have one provider that has a look back to 5 years. And so you'll be able to see all the medications this patient has been ordered, depending on what your filter selection was on this. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, so going back to our home screen, I'm going to just talk about real briefly on screenings. Emily just wanted me to remind everybody that this is where you can see the numbers for these depression screenings and your mini cog, all these that have been completed by your MA. These totals will display on the screenings of this component. And you have a standard view of the last 13 months. You have a look back to 2 years and out to 5 years on that. So does anybody have any questions on the screenings? So the other one we were going to talk about is calculators. We do have these clinical calculators down at the very bottom, and I'm just going to select the clinical criteria one, and they're on alphabetical from A to Z, and you can scroll through these if you're looking for a specific calculator to have these numbers or results. You can copy these and paste them into one of your notes. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to complete a AFib 5-year risk of stroke. If you click on this one, this patient's only 31 years old. I'm just going to say that they're a little bit older if I wanted to. If they were 59 younger, they get 0 points. If my patient was in 72 to 74 range, they would have 4 points. Male, female. Then diabetes, I'm going to say yes. Prior stroke, no. And it gives them a number of a 9. Now you can reset this form and start back over. If you select copy to clipboard, all you're doing is doing a copy and paste functionality to this. You just copy it, it's going to sit on the clipboard. So when you have the time to open up your note, and then you can take this and paste it somewhere within your note, wherever it's specific to your documentation. I'm just going to go ahead and use this physical exam field, and I'm just going to use Control or copy and paste, and you'll see this display in this fashion. And once you've copied and pasted that calculator into your note, you'll have to go back and copy it again if you do delete this. And you can also see once I open this note up that this tag text that I had from the prior document is displayed here. And if any tag text on the left-hand side is a simple drag and drop it into the component that you would wish to have it display. And just remember, if you did grab it and you put it in the wrong component, if you were to delete it, it will display back over on the left-hand side, so you can actually drag and drop it into the most appropriate one. If this was for diagnostics, I can move it back over in here. Since I have this document open, does anybody have any questions on the functionality of tagging and the contextual view? And you're going to notice that these lab results I tagged automatically populated within this note type. So does anybody have any questions? Oops, sorry.
You all are very
So
quiet.
I'm sorry, what was?
I said everybody's really quiet.
Yeah, I keep on wondering if we lost connection, but Dr. Leonardo, any way to bring that into the note? Sorry, I just noticed your message now. What were you asking to bring into the note?
Pratima asked the same thing. It was regarding the graphing, like of blood pressure and weight,
Okay.
so that we could bring that functionality into the note. Because I know how to do that, but I didn't know how to bring it in the note, but apparently I can't, so.
Yeah, this view is what you're wanting to bring into the note, correct? This
Yes,
graph. Yeah, and that's where I've
right.
asked Cerner if there's a way that we can copy that on almost like the function that you have in the calculators to copy to clipboard. That would be actually really nice. That's something that we are trying to get them to do.
We cannot snip the image and bring that into our note either, can we?
No, you cannot. I've actually tried that. Yep.
The one other thing I thought would be helpful for people is the categories in the document section too. If you go to the documents, it gives you option of all, and
You mean your filters?
But there's an option where you can just have, yeah, so just colonoscopy notes will display, or just cardiology notes and procedures. I think many people don't have this selected. There's an option of also adding just colonoscopies.
So the functionality here through the change filter is the clinical documentation is the hierarchy. And once this is selected, every note type under here should display under completed here. If you're just looking for cardiology notes and procedure notes, you want to make sure you unselect the clinical documentation through here and select apply. And it will just show your completed cardiology notes for this. And this one here, just if you did not know, the little triangle here, it states that there is an addendum done on this note. It does default to your last 50 notes. You can select only your notes, or you can group them by encounter. But if you do by encounter, just remember that you have selected cardiology notes. And if you wish to view another one in inpatients, you can do that, or by going back to your clinical documentation and applying it. And this is what will show you all of your encounters. Now, this is the new functionality. Is that what you're referring to?
That, and I think if you click on the main documents 40 area.
Oh, the hyperlink here.
Yeah. Hyperlink, sorry.
Yep. So nope, that's okay. So some people don't realize that these components are hyperlinks. If you hover over these, some of them have the functionality to take you to another option with these. So she was talking about the documents here will take you to, I got my clinical documentation here. So it's, and depending, you know what, you may be right. You guys go to this viewpoint, right? Yeah, so yeah, I forget the primary care goes to here. Some links will take you to this folder as well, but you're referring to this one here?
Right, and it's possible to add filters through here too, where you can customize it further. Yep. I know that because mine is, somebody did it for me a few years ago, and I have colonoscopy as a separate tab.
Right.
And it saves a lot of time.
Right, and you can go pretty deep into this. And if you're going to do this, this is something I would strongly recommend sitting with Emily or another CI to go through this and to make sure you can do this, because this one here, you want clinical documentation, you want to check that box, scroll through here. If you're looking for just H&Ps, select the H&P, but there's a little plus sign. So then you go into which H&Ps. So you can become very specific on H&Ps. For example, And if you're looking for, you said what note type were you referring to?
Colonoscopy, so probably in the procedures, surgical.
Yeah, where is my, there you go. So you'll want to check the box and then go down here. And like I said, here's the cardiology cath. I mean, this filter keeps on going down. So you'll want to go through all these. Here's your colonoscopy. You want to check that box. And then once you're done selecting all these, you simply select apply. And you can give it a name. And then you can display those and it'll show only the colonoscopies or anything that you have for here. I'm just looking to see if this is, I don't think we have any. Why did that pull that up?
31, they won't have a colonoscopy.
Yeah, yep. So, any other questions? Does anybody have any specific feature or functionality that they're stuck on that would like to go over?
You were going to show us how to tag custom micro. Is that the same way as the other?
My apologies. Yep, my apologies on that. On custom micro, unfortunately, this little patient doesn't have a custom micro. If you had a lab result, or excuse me, if you had a micro result here, you'll actually see a tag feature right here. It will be next to the result and it will be dithered out. If you select it and it turns blue, that just indicates that it's been tagged. And some people think it will display up here, but it does not display up into the tagged items. It will only show that you have selected the custom micro to be tagged, and it turns that little Cerner blue. The tag icon goes from a dithered out to a blue. And so some providers forget that. They think they've tagged it and they come up here and they don't see it. So they click on it again, they're actually unselecting it. But it will pull forward into your components that have a custom micro in your DynDoc notes.
Is there a way, I keep wanting to bring outside resources into Cerner, either as an auto text or something that I can create for patients. I wanted to make a safety plan for patients who are suicidal, and I just wanted to copy one. How's the best way to do that now that we're not able to make education plans? Is there a way I can copy something and then paste it into something to make an auto text?
Yep. And so I'm going to go and just find a document to see if I can show you and just kind of use it as an example. So if you're going to go and you can take it from a Word document. And so if you have that as a Word document, or if it's in another chart somewhere, I'm just going to go ahead and grab a bunch of text here. And
So it would have to be like a Word document.
Yep, it'll have to be a Word document.
When I run into problems is I'm trying to copy something that's an image.
Oh, it's an image? Yeah,
Yeah,
it will not
I think I do something that's text quite often, and I can't do that. How come we can't make our own patient education?
Oh, or for patient education, we do allow custom education. And so there is a process for that. And through our SharePoint site, it's just going to come up on another side over here. So if you go into departments and go into clinical informatics,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a custom patient education link. You click on that and it gives you the steps on going through for custom education. And so that becomes just like what you see on your patient education that's sent to the patients. Now, when we do custom patient education, you become the owner of that document, and it's treated like a Lucy document that you have to review it every 2 years to see if there's any updates needed and so forth. And so if you create one, they'll most likely send it back to you for updating, and you'll have to sign off on that every 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
But this is the process of where you'll
It's a
go
different
through.
process. Got it. Okay.
But that can be done. I've done 10 of them for a surgeon up for colonoscopies. He has his special ones that he has. So it
Okay.
can be done.
I remember, I don't like the the set of instructions we use through the company that we use as ambulatory providers as much as the ones the ER doctors use. I seem to remember that the ER, we used to be able to use the ER set and switch back and forth between the two.
So you do have a patient education link up here and through your components here. This one will take you up to a custom, like shows from this viewpoint what we have built out as custom. If you go through the one up on top, it's the patient education here, and then you can do a search to see if one is done for ED or anything like that. If there's something in here, you might be able to find through here.
Different companies that we pulled from.
So Crames is the company that we use for ours.
Okay.
But these
This
are like
this has been a
all,
long time ago. I can't remember. Yeah.
but as you can tell, we have quite a few of these custom patient education.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Does everybody know how to use health maintenance functionality where you can click on the order, click on the care gap and order the labs directly from there?
Through here is, and so I just, apologies, is that I just selected the health maintenance here, and this one's saying it's overdue. If you select on it, you can go through actions and you can order it through here directly. And you can also select the little link right here for it as well to place this order.
It's super convenient the way it is now.
Yeah.
I like having the reference text there too, because periodically I'm like, why is that not popping up? And then I go and look at the reference text and I remember.
Is it possible to request that the links for hepatitis C and HIV reflect screening for those diseases? Because I'm having issues with ordering those and then having to then go find and enter additional code for screening for hepatitis C, screening for HIV. Whereas if those were automatically linked, like they are for like the osteoporosis, where it's just automatically screening for osteoporosis, or the DEXA scan is.
If you put in that request, and we could put it in and go and ask that Emily, and she can definitely take that in to see if they can link those.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. It's linked on the orders M page. So if you go to the primary care orders page, it's linked there, so we can get it linked here too. I'm guessing that it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's the other functionality is linked, you shouldn't have a problem. Just bring that to Emily's and she can get that requested.
All right, thank you.
I still notice that the HIV and Hep C, they're not pulling in old HIV and Hep C results, like somebody who was seen in OB a year or two ago and had those screening tests done. They're not pulling those in.
It's not showing the results of those.
Yeah, it still shows that they need screening.
Okay, so
I think it's going backwards.
Yeah, that's something that we'll ask. And Sharma, can you take a note of these and then
Mhm.
these
Yeah.
requests, and then I can bring these up with Emily and I can help her if she needs to and go on that.
Yep, I'll do that. One other thing I learned not too long ago was when you get messages, there's a summary view.
Oh.
Not sure if this patient has that option, but I wasn't aware of it.
So if you have messages in here on summary view, are you talking about like the message journal to see the history of their messages?
Oh, yes, that's a good point too. But if you have an actual message that's open or labs that are open and you want to see what meds they're on, etc., there's
Oh.
a little tag.
Right, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, this patient doesn't have any messages. If yeah, I could do that. It's a summary review, and yeah, I wish I could do that. I could, if I created one, I could be able to show you that as a message. So, so let me see if I can do this. So this little summary view is what she's referring to, is that if you have a message from your MA or anything, instead of having to jump out of this message to open up the patient's chart or anything, there's two locations where you can actually get into the patient's chart. One is through summary view, or you'll notice that the patient's name is up here as well. I'm just going to close her chart just to show you that it displays here. And if you go into summary view, it'll take you into the patient's chart. And so then you can go and review anything that you need to concerning the patient. And then if you need to go back, you can just select inbox and it'll take you back to your message.
Yeah, I toggle between those all the time as I'm
It's-
answering messages. It's
Yep.
super convenient.
Yeah, it's actually really a very nice little function instead of having to open up a patient's chart like if you did here, because then it opens it up completely and then you have to close it.
Back to
Yep.
the message. Yeah, it's amazing how short of a time span I can hold something in my brain. I need to toggle.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Am I the only person who, when I'm in a message and I go in to order a referral to somebody, it does not show me the regular referral orders list? It shows me a different list of referral orders. It doesn't show me the complete list.
So
Yes,
Me
that
too.
happens a lot.
That drives me batty. Why
Yeah.
does it not show me the regular referral? I cannot do referral orders from a message. I have to close out of the chart or
It's
close out of the
different
message.
wording on each location.
It's a different thing and it just drives me insane.
So what referral are you looking for?
If you're in this view, if you try to do like referral ENT, you can't do it. You have to put referral ENT. You can't, it won't jump to ENT.
The order for looking up referral orders is different in a message than it is in a regular order from somebody's chart. And I just want him to show me the same list of referrals. And I'm not sure if it's if the newer providers, it's the same thing as us providers who've been on Cerner longer. This has been this way ever since I got on Cerner, and finally I've had so many IT people look into it for me, and finally they said you would have to like restart from scratch with Cerner to get rid of this. So some of you people who are newer in Cerner, have you noticed this? That you get a different referral list in a message? They have no idea what I'm even talking about, do they?
No, I
Yeah.
see the same thing as you do, Amy. I'm not sure. I think the newer people here are Dr. Esser and who else? Dr. Leonardo too, and maybe Lisa.
Yeah,
So-
we have the same thing going through messages. You just can't do it, and so I have to close out and go in through the patient chart to do it.
So
Okay,
if-
that makes me feel
So-
better.
So
If
you're saying if I'm looking to do this referral to EHENT, which I see within the patient's chart, you're saying that you cannot pull this order from Message Center?
It's all about how you word it. So right now you
Yeah.
have exact wording and so it matches. But if you put down here, referral ENT, and then if you go to the other place, you put down referral ENT, you get a different result.
So this
Here,
was,
you'll see it.
I'm still seeing it here, but when
Yep.
I go back through here,
Let's
I
say
see
that.
it here.
Well, okay, that wasn't a good example.
Okay, that's not a good example. It's just, I just so want the same list to show up
All right,
when I do
so
it both places.
if you guys can give Emily, or even in the chat, if you have a list of them, if you happen to know off your top of your head what referral ones, because you should be able to see them across. And I don't know why, I mean, you said you've talked to IT quite a bit, so
I've done
Actually-
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here, it's bringing up all the EHENT. Can you, or it has that one on there? It doesn't say external. Can you go back to the other one?
It's the external ones that
Yeah.
usually don't show up. Yeah.
Can you go back to
these are-
the other one?
Mhm.
Okay, you want external ones?
No, stop. Go back to where you were on the end page.
My home.
So if you typed in referral ENT from here,
You don't get external. You're not
External.
external there.
So, oops.
Amy, you and I should just sit down and figure this out because it drives me crazy too.
it drives me, and I don't know how to explain how hard it is for my brain that I can type in the exact same thing in two different places and get a different list, and why that's so hard for my brain to work with, but it is. And it's caused me much sadness over the last however many years. And I've worked with many confused IT people, and they have
Yeah.
no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because it's just showing you everything that's within Evergreen Health because of the little star. So you're saying you can,
I'm looking at a message now on an actual patient, and I put in referral to external, and it lists everything except ENT.
It's really frustrating, and I don't know how to quite capture it for people.
interesting.
Joanna,
Okay, so
Yeah, maybe we sit down with Emily and Ronnie and try to figure this out.
yeah, you should be able to have,
It just needs to be the same list displayed in the same way
right,
on
exactly.
both things, and it's not. And I promise you, I bet I've
Oh,
sat down 10 different people over the years and tried to explain this without success.
No, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So,
You're not really that glad.
oh no, actually, Emily is not going to be glad. So, it's so we have just a couple more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions?
Anybody want to add their own tips and tricks here? Anything we haven't gone over that you do on a regular basis that may be helpful for the group?
No, I appreciate this, but I would love to have some additional training on Message Center.
Yeah, and
Person.
that's something that Emily and we've talked about that. Because there's a lot of little fine things within Message Center that when you guys onboarded, and even in that training that I participated in with onboarding you guys, when I was done with that, I said you guys should have done a 1 hour specific Message Center training. It should have not have been a part of that. Its Message Center is a huge thing. So
I'd like to have the training that you guys do for the new providers. I'd like to go through the new provider training. I mean, I've been
then you and I can sit down
I
and
use such an old version of Cerner, and I've had such a hard time changing my old habits.
then I would just sit down with you and just do a one-on-one. It will go a lot faster than the 4 hours that I would put you through. We can be very specific on the workflow and stuff like that.
Sign me freaking up, man.
Yeah, and so what we can do is we can work with your schedule and mine and stuff like that, and
I would love
do
that.
that. And what we can do is, if you wanted to, we can break it up into little sections so it's a little bit more palatable and something that you could remember easier.
Yeah.
And just do a 1 hour session, and I could just go through my curriculum and go, this is what we got done in 1 hour. 2 hours, we can break it up into 4 hour sessions. It will be done in about 3 hours.
Oh, I would like buy you food for that. I really would.
Now you're speaking to my stomach because I'm starving, so you got a deal. But no, anything else on these?
I don't see anything else coming up. If you have other questions, just text us, email us, just let us know, and we will be sure. We have enough material for another session. We'll do another one in a few weeks. So, and the recording will be available whenever Joe sends it to me. I'll send it to all of you.
All right.
There's another session tomorrow morning. It's the exact same training. And if you see your colleagues, ask them to sign up and, join into that one.
But thank you, everybody. I do appreciate